Hey babe, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited to talk to Caleb today.
Yep.
So I think he's going to call us here in a few minutes. But before he does, I got a question that I want to ask you that I had dealt with recently. But here's my general question. What is one thing that annoys the crap out of you that shouldn't, it probably doesn't annoy anybody else on the planet, but it annoys you? Like, what's one thing that just drives you nuts and there's no reason it should?
The one thing that comes to mind, honestly, is people that drag their feet. And I don't know why. Like the kids and I were talking about this the other day because I remember when.
Like, they don't do stuff in a certain time
No,
period?
like they literally drag their feet and you hear the sliding. So, like, when I think it was, what are they called? They're not flip flop slides. So, when slides became a thing, and one of my children, I honestly can't remember which one, had to have a pair of slides. And so I bought them a pair of slides because, I tried to, within reason, make my children happy. And we were walking through Walmart one day and they were dragging their feet. And it was just like, shh, 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 shh. And I looked around. I said, please stop dragging your feet. And of course, kids being kids, okay, mom. And they kept doing it. And finally, I literally took the shoes off of their feet, put them in the buggy, and they had to walk around barefooted the rest of the time because I just could not handle the sound of the feet drag. And I still remember, like, when my dad was alive and we lived, and this dragging your feet across carpet makes my mouth it's kind of like fingernails down a chalkboard for some people, but
For me it is.
But my dad, we had this like 70 shag carpet, and just thinking about it makes me want to but he would drag his feet, not his shoe with shoes on, like his bare feet. He would drag his bare feet across that shag carpet. And my dad, he wasn't he was a man's man. Like, he didn't get pedicures. So his feet were, they had the dead skin and all the things. And so he would drag his feet across the carpet. It just made me want to, but you didn't say anything to my dad. It was like, hey dad, how are you? And in the corner, I'm like slowly dying inside because I can't stand it. But that's the first thing that comes to mind. But there's a lot of, and I think this part is just from being in nursing for so long, and the dings and the whistles and the monitors and the alarms and stuff that are always going off. But I don't like repetitive, like tapping or beeping. I don't know. I feel like the older I've gotten, the more that kind of stuff bothers me. But I think it's just because I hear it for 12 hours every day at work. And then when I come home, I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Yes. And it must be genetic because your mom's the same way. She doesn't like Robert tapping or chewing or doing any kind of repetitive sounds or whatever. So,
but see, again, I think it either comes with age, or I just didn't realize it when I was younger, or I never tapped. But I don't feel like she was like that when I was growing up. But I still remember, like with Caleb, I remember he liked to, every time we were doing something, at the restaurant or whatever, Caleb was, playing drums. He always wanted to be a drummer. So he was drumming everything. And I would try my best not to say anything, but then I would get to a point where I'm like, you've got to stop. Please stop. What's your thing?
And then he would look at me and go, Dad, what's our problem?
My
and I'm
mom
like,
said.
well, I don't know. We'll talk about it later. Yeah.
So then we found out he just went home and wrote it on the desk, which you'll hear about later. What's your thing?
So mine is not nothing personal like that, but it's something I've had to deal with this past week. So I've been out of town this week, staying with Bethany and Eric in Knoxville. But one of the things that drives me crazy, and I realize there's a purpose for this, but it still drives me crazy. The suitcase that I took, it has 2 zippers on it. And so my thing is, why don't it just have 1 zipper on it? Because what happens is I grab the zipper and I unzip all 3 sides of the suitcase just to realize that I've actually got both zippers. So I've zipped it and unzipped it and zipped it right back the whole time. And I did that probably 4 times this week. Nobody else on the planet probably has even thought about it, but like, it would just irritate the crap out of me. And it's not just that. It's like I have a backpack that does the same thing. I have a camera bag that does the same thing. And if I'm out, like a couple of months ago, we were filming for Bourbon on the Banks, and I would reach behind me, or you had the backpack on, so I'd reach over and grab the thing and unzip the whole thing, and then realize that I actually zipped it right back. And I just don't understand why things can't come with one zipper. Like, why we have to have two zippers.
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, for bags, maybe I can understand it because then you could just unzip it a little bit in the middle and get what you need out. But for a suitcase, you pretty much have to always unzip the whole thing.
And if the idea is, I think the idea, I know for my camera bag, if you're wearing it as a backpack and if there's just one zipper, it has to either fall on the left or right at the bottom. So it could come unzipped and all your stuff could fall out. So you have two zippers so you could zip them both up to the top. And that makes sense. But like you said, the suitcase, you could literally start from the bottom and zip it up to the top and be done with it. But anyway.
If anybody knows the answer to that question, please comment on our Facebook page or our Instagram page, because I'm kind of curious now. I never really thought about it until you just brought that up.
That's what I was saying. Nobody on the planet probably thinks of it, but it was irritating the crap out of me this week. So that's my thing. But anyway, Caleb's about to give us a call. And so I would like for us to get into Caleb's episode of the podcast.
Did you forget the name of the podcast?
I didn't want to just say it.
Oh.
I just said the podcast. But loving our 25 to life.
Welcome to Loving Our 25 to Life. I'm Heather.
And I'm Bo. Together we've been married over 25 years.
Yeah, baby!
And this is where we talk about life, love, and all the adventures we have had along the way.
Oh, wow.
Whether we're sharing stories from our marriage or taking you along one of our trips, we're here to reflect on how we've made it this far and where we are headed next.
So grab a seat, settle in, and let's dive into another episode of Loving Our 25 to Life.
This is Caleb's birthday week, and so we have called Caleb. A couple weeks ago we did Bethany's because my children are almost exactly 24 months apart, and that's a whole story in and of itself. But we have Caleb on the phone because unfortunately he couldn't be with us personally, so we were going to talk about have Caleb talk about some of his favorite stories growing up, and then we were going to talk about some of our favorite Caleb stories. But I wanted to start with the birthing of Caleb. Actually, let's go back to finding out we were pregnant with Caleb. I think at the time Bethany was only 14 months old, I believe. I mean, she was not even walking yet. Of course, that child didn't walk till she was almost 2. But anyway, we weren't trying to have babies. We were barely making it with the one. And then one day I just wasn't feeling too good. And I thought, well, maybe I should take a test. And I did. And it was like 6:30 in the morning. I got up, I went to the bathroom. I took a test. And it was positive, and I came back and told you, and you were excited and ecstatic. And I was really thought you were going to be kind of freaked out. But my pregnancy with Caleb went pretty good. He was due toward the end of December. But since he was going to be a scheduled section, I kind of got to pick his birthday. So I picked December 26th, which is also Bo's birthday, so that they would have that kind of special thing in common. So we went through all of our Christmas celebrations, and I was as big as the house. And then the next morning we showed up at the hospital, and they took me back. And when Caleb was born, he was screaming like I have never heard a baby scream before. And I was like, is he okay? Because when Bethany came out, she didn't scream at all. And Caleb came out, and he was screaming in full force and hadn't stopped since. Right, babe?
Yes.
So, he had to spend one night in the NICU because in all the screaming that he did, he had swallowed some the fluid into his lungs, and they were concerned about his breathing. But he did, just like everything else in life, he did great. And the next day he was back in the room with me. And so we got to go home together. And so where do you want to start, Bo? You want to start with like a favorite Caleb toddler story, or?
Well, let Caleb start. I want to hear some of his favorite stories, and then I have some of my own.
Caleb, do you remember being born? Because apparently Joshua says he remembers being born.
No, I do not remember being born.
What's your first memory that that you want to share?
I think my very first memory, the one that at least comes to mind, was we were still living in Mississippi, and I remember it was a very, very short memory I remember, but I remember Grandma set me in a swing. And when she set me in the swing, she didn't know that there was a wasp nest under the swing. And I was swinging, and then I started getting stung on my legs. And Grandma didn't understand why I was screaming until she saw the wasp, and then she freaked out and picked me up and brought me inside. That was my very first memory that I remember.
I was there. That was at when we lived
in Terry.
In Terry, we had the house, and Grandma lived right next to us, and so that was at our house. And me and Grandma were outside, so we were both there.
I do remember that memory. And then I also remember one time, I think it was still in Dad actually had the picture of it. It was one time whenever I was really little, and me and Bethany were watching the horses, and I'm pretty sure that was in Mississippi as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dad has a picture because it used to hang up in the Powell house. It was right in front of our bathroom.
The big one where you and Bethany holding hands looking at the horses or standing by each other. Yep. That's one. That and when y'all were at the beach holding hands looking at the water when y'all were little. Those are my two favorite pictures of y'all.
Yeah, the horse one, the horse lived, there was a horse pasture right next to our house. And I took both of you out there one day. The horses would come up and we would feed them apples. And y'all were always okay to feed them if me or Mom were with you. But that day, I think Mom was in school or doing something, and I wanted y'all to walk up together and feed the horse, but y'all were both scared to death to do it by yourself, and you didn't. Neither one of you would feed the horse.
I do.
I'm still scared of horses.
We do still have that picture. All right. So what is your favorite grade school memory, like when you were at Carnes or whatever?
I think my favorite memory, I think it's not really a memory, but I think about this all the time about how being in elementary school, I was like, I did this with everything. Like elementary school, I was like, man, I can't wait till I can get to middle school. And then I would get to middle school and I would be like, dang, man. I want to go back to elementary school. That was so much fun. So I don't think it's necessarily one specific memory. No, okay, sorry. I don't think it's one specific memory, but I just had such a great experience in school, and I just think about. But if I had to pick one memory that was really stuck out, I saw a guy break his arm once, and whenever we were playing basketball, I don't really remember too much about elementary school.
Hey, I know a story that you remember.
What?
Tell the story about the time that you decided to walk to school by yourself.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So whenever it was fourth grade or maybe third grade, I was really little, but I missed the bus. And I was so scared because for some reason, and I understand it now, but for some reason, every time we'd miss the bus, you guys would get livid and get so mad. And I didn't understand it. I was like, what? What do they do when we leave? We just sit at home, But at the time, I didn't know that y'all both had jobs. Y'all both had to be there on time. And I see that now because now I have a job. And, if I'm late, it's oh my goodness, it's just kind of weird. But so I was waiting for the bus. I missed the bus, and I was like, I'm definitely not going to go tell Dad I missed the bus. So I decided I was going to strap my boots up and tighten my bag, and I was just going to truck to school.
Which was about 15 miles away. We didn't live next to the school. It was quite a haul.
Yeah, it was not a short trip. I was expecting the worst. And so I started walking, and I was just going down, and I got to the very end of the neighborhood, and I don't remember. For some reason, I always thought Dad was gone before we had to be at the bus stop, but I don't think that was true because Dad was leaving, and he happened to see me at the very, like right before I was about to cross a busy highway, like a really busy highway. I was about to cross this highway. I was like, I was probably 100% going to die if I crossed it because of just how busy it was. And then Dad saw me and he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I missed the bus, so I'm walking to school." He was like, "You need to get in this car right now. I'm taking you to school. Let's go." Except he didn't say it like that. He said some words that probably aren't appropriate for your podcast. But anyway, so I got in the car, and I do remember also I had one of Dad's, like, I had one of these like little, it was like a Coke or something that I was gonna bring because one of my friends wanted one, and I was like, I definitely don't want Dad to see this Coke because he'd also get mad at that. So I like threw it. Whenever I saw Dad coming, I like threw it into the bushes.
That's so funny. I think that's when I worked nights, and I usually wasn't home until about 8 or 8:30 because where I worked was about an hour away from home. So I think I didn't even know about that until way after it had happened. I don't think your dad told me, but so I wonder, I know that, the old saying goes that God protects children and drunks. So I wonder what would have happened if Dad wouldn't have driven up on you, like how far you would have made it before. I mean, I just don't understand what your plan was there.
I have no idea. My plan was just to get to school somehow, some way.
I mean, it probably would have been lunchtime before you even got there.
That's what I'm saying, but it's just like, that's the mind of a kid, is like, he would do anything to not get in trouble. You know what I mean? Like I was ready to take on the world before I was ready to tell Mom and Dad I was late for school. I'd missed the bus.
I remember talking about, there are two things I remember where I felt like such a terrible mother when you were in elementary school. So one of them was you were in kindergarten. And like I said, I maybe first grade, but no, it was kindergarten because y'all had a half day. And for some reason, kindergartners got out 30 minutes before the other kids. So I had worked the night before. I had gone home. And usually I could sleep till y'all got out of school at like 2. But I knew I had to get up to get you like around, I think it was 11:45. And so I pull up at 11:45 in the little pickup circle. And you're standing there with a teacher and it's just the two of y'all, no cars, no other people, no nothing. And I like pulled up and I was like, what's going on? And she said, well, Miss Cumberland, pickup was at 11:15. So I was like 30 minutes late picking you up. And I felt awful. And of course, I'm in my pajamas and my hair's a mess. And I literally had just gotten out of bed to drive to school. So I'm like, I know these people probably think I'm a crackhead coming up here to pick my kid up in the middle of the day.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember that, so that's okay.
Do you remember when you had that thing on your knee and I had you take you to the hospital to get it cut on?
Yeah, that was crazy. And I kept telling the nurses she was really pretty.
Yeah, well, the fun story is you had that thing on your knee the night before, but it wasn't bad. Of course, I'm trying to not have to miss work, and I'm a nurse, and so I thought I could take care of it. So I was like, you'll be fine. Just go to school. And that morning when you went to school, it wasn't too bad. But when I picked you up that afternoon, it was twice as big as your knee, and you couldn't even walk to the car. Like the teacher had to kind of pick you up, and I picked you up that day and we went straight up to the children's ER so they could take care of it. But that was another time I felt like a terrible mom because I sent you to school with that big bump on your knee.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't remember going to school with it, but I do remember like being at the ER and them cutting it out and stuff.
And they gave you the Versed that made you silly.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
All right, Bo.
I went and told my buddies the next day that I got high.
Great. I swear it's a wonder they didn't call CPS on me.
Yeah.
So my question for you, Heather, is when did you first realize that Caleb was going to be 100% all boy, meaning he was going to be trouble and give us trouble and be trouble?
I mean, he just always was, like, not trouble, but he was just full on everything. Like, we talked about how Bethany didn't walk until she could do it perfectly. Well, Caleb started at like 8 months and he ran into everything. We had to put like bumpers on the coffee tables because he would fall and hit his head. But I mean, he was walking by the time he was, I think, 11 months old. He looked like a little drunk guy, but he was getting it done. And so he's just always kind of been that way. And yeah, I mean, I do remember the time that it was right after Joshua was born. And you came up with you came in the house. We lived in Carnes at the time, and you came in there and you're like, Mom, I caught a black widow. And I was like, no, you didn't. And you were like, yeah, look, Mom. You were what, 6 or 7 at the time? And sure enough, you showed me a Dr. Pepper bottle. So it had a very small neck, a Dr. Pepper bottle with a black widow in it. And I freaked out because all the thoughts in my head are, how did that happen? Like, how did you get a black widow spider in a small bottle like that without getting bit? So then I'm making sure that you didn't get bit. And then I'm trying to figure out what to do with the spider. And I was just, in the meantime, I think I was in the middle of trying to feed Joshua, but I was like, yeah, that's when I was like, we're going to have to really watch this one.
For me,
Yeah, I remember catching those black widows. That was fun.
For me, it was Caleb. You tell me if you remember this or not. For me, it was when Caleb was maybe a year old, maybe 2 years old, but not very much older than that. And I went into his bedroom and he was drawing on the wall with a magic marker. Just the biggest picture you could put on a wall that was covering as high up as he could go, as far over as he could walk. And I remember I got mad at him, and this is back when I cared enough about my parenting style that I wouldn't just spank the kids. I would tell them why. And so I spanked him. And then, of course, he was crying. And then I sat him on my knee and I said, do you understand, Daddy, I didn't spank you because I hate you. I didn't spank you because I don't love you. It's just we pay a lot of money for the house. We pay a lot of money for these things. And if you go around destroying them, then that shows you don't respect the house or whatever. So I'm telling him all this stuff. This is why I spanked you, because you were drawing on the wall. And so I get through with my speech and Caleb says, are you done? Because I got to finish my picture. And I thought at that point, okay, I've lost the battle and I'm never going to regain control. So that was Caleb. That was my first time that I realized that I was in for it.
So let's move into middle school and high school. If you could go back, Caleb, and tell your middle school self anything in the world, what would you tell your middle school self?
I would tell him not to try as hard.
Try with what?
I would say, oh, not like as far as school. I was just saying, I remember whenever I was in elementary school or middle school, I was trying to make everybody happy and all my friends. I would be like, this friend's upset, so I got to make him better. And then this friend's upset, but I just wish, and if I could go back and tell my middle school friend or my middle school self, I'd be like, all these friends that you got, you're not going to talk to them ever again after this. So just don't even worry about it. You know what I mean? I feel like that would help, because I was very I had a lot of anxiety in middle school because I was worried about making all my friends happy and stuff. And I just feel like if I would have just, been like, dude, it's okay. I would have enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
And same thing in high school. I was trying to make all my friends happy and all that stuff. Yeah. My stupid girlfriends at the time. Yeah. I was trying to make them happy. And then it's just like, I literally talked to one person from high school, and it's Ben. That's the only person I talked to. Yep. And it's just like, if I would have known in high school that I wasn't going to talk to anybody then I would have been fine. You know what I mean?
Do you remember when I think it was 9th grade, you were in art class, you were always trying to be the funny guy to the point where, and here's the thing you all need to know about Caleb. I had to go up to the school a few times to talk to Caleb's teachers, but anytime we had discussions about Caleb's behavior, it was always, Caleb is such a respectable kid and he's very kind and he's very polite, and it was always followed with something like he can't be still or he can't focus or whatever. But you remember the time your art teacher called me and she was like, Miss Cumberland, he's a great kid. He's super sweet, but he disrupts the class because he's trying to be funny. And do you remember I came up to your class and I sat with you for a little bit?
Yeah, I remember that.
And also,
I remember that because all my freaking friends kept telling me, they were like, you got a hot mom. I was like,
stop.
Please stop.
That's
like, please leave me alone.
I just remember sitting there when you walked into your classroom and you looked up and saw me, and all I heard was, Caleb, is that your mom? Caleb, did your mom come to school?
Yeah, she was like, "That's your mom." I remember that was Miss Frill's class. I actually talked to her a few days ago. I saw her at the store a few days ago.
I mean, that's what I said. Like, your teachers loved you. I remember one time in elementary school picking you up, and the lady in the office was going on and on about what a great kid you were and how sweet you were. And we get in the car, and I said, "Hey, Caleb, well, which teacher was that?" And you were like, "Oh, that's my ISS teacher." So basically, you had gone to in-school suspension so many times that you were apparently the best kid in there, and she loved you to death.
Mm-hmm. Her name was Miss Bean. I love Miss.
She knew she had a job as long as Caleb was at that school.
Yeah. They fired her out of middle school. Was it middle school or elementary? I can't remember. I think it was elementary, but I got rid of her because they didn't need her anymore. I literally would. I remember vividly. I would be in class and I'd be like, "Can I go see Miss Bean?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, go ahead." And then I would just go. I would just go to Miss Bean. I would just grab my paper that we were working on. And I would just go to Miss Bean's class.
Yeah, you were, like I said, I never had any complaints about your attitude or the way you treated people. It was just the fact that you couldn't sit still. All right. So, do you have anything else before we move on to adulthood? I'm talking to your dad. Hang on.
Wow.
Was there a story you wanted to tell?
Yeah.
That you and Caleb enjoy telling, and I'm not so happy about it?
My 100% all-time favorite Caleb story, and it will always be my favorite Caleb story, is when this was back in elementary school. So he was probably third grade or fourth grade. He had a bad habit of letting his room get disastrous where I would get mad and go in there or you would get mad and go in there and just take all their stuff and throw it in the middle of the floor and then make them clean it up. Well, one day you had gone into his room to do all that. And I heard you going ballistic in there. And then I heard Caleb screaming. And so what had happened was you went in his room and you're doing your job of cleaning everything off and throwing everything in the middle of the floor. You discovered that he had etched something in his desk. So he had taken a knife or something and etched in the desk. My mom is a bitch. Now, what's funny about that is initially Caleb was like, "I didn't do that. Why would I do that?" And
yeah, somebody broke in and did that.
Yeah, so somebody broke into your house. So anyway, you call me up there thinking that I'm going to come up there and I'm going to be just as furious. And so I come up there, I read it, I bust out laughing. So you're mad at me for laughing in front of Caleb when you're trying to discipline him.
Which was most of our adult parenting, or trying to parent these kids.
But I started laughing because I just thought, like, it takes stones to just do that in public and not give a crap that your mom comes into your room quite often and she's literally going to see it there. That's what was so funny. So I start laughing and you say you would not think it's funny if it was you. And I said, "No, I probably would think it's funny." You were like, "No, it hits different when you read it and it's about you." And I said, "Okay, whatever." So we get past that. Well, fast forward to how old were you, Caleb, whenever we moved to Powell?
Sixth grade, so like 12, I think.
All right, so sixth grade. So we're moving out of this house into another house. And I'm getting the bed out of Caleb's room, his drawer, his dresser out. I go in his closet, I'm getting all of his clothes out, and I look on the wall, and in black magic marker was written, my dad is an asshole. And I busted out laughing, and I had to run get you because I ran and got you, Heather, and I said, "Come read this." And you read it. Of course, you were furious. But I was laughing just as hard because the thought of, like, at some point in the future, your dad is going to be like I was going to have to be in that closet at some point, whether it's to get the clothes out because we move or repainting or whatever. But to see that, and of course, Caleb Caleb fashion was like, "I didn't write that. I don't know how it got there." So again, somebody broke in to etch that on his dresser, and then somebody broke back in to write that in his room. That's
I tried to hide it better, but obviously I couldn't say that, so I had to get it out. So I just wrote it down, and I wanted to write it down somewhere where you couldn't see it. The one on the desk, I was like, I don't even care. I was like, I'm letting everybody know. But then the one I was like, okay, Dad, he whoops ass harder, so I'm gonna write this one in the closet.
Yeah, well, moving on to, so let's see. In my memories the other day, it popped up when you and I would go to Bojangles before school, but apparently one of the times it was right before one of your last exams. But so you didn't actually get to, of course you graduated high school, but you didn't actually get to have a ceremony or anything because you graduated in 2020. And if you remember, they had one, but it was some weird thing where it was going to be outside and you had to drive through. I don't know. It was just weird. So we gave you the option to, if you wanted us to go do that or not. And you were like, no, I'm good. So, Caleb, do you want to share anything about why you thought your mom was a B word and your dad was an a-hole, or we just want to move on from there?
Nothing really comes to mind, but I'm sure that younger Caleb had a reason to write that.
So I remember Caleb's first job was at Food City. He did that for a while, and everybody I'd run into in the Powell community talked about what a good worker he was and what a good job he did, and then what happened with what made you decide to do electrician stuff? Like, I remember you coming home one day and you were like, hey Mom, I've heard about this thing at no, it wasn't. Where were you first? There was somebody besides where you are now. Anyway, my God, you came home and said, I heard about this program, blah, 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 and I really want to do it. So I remember taking you up there, and I sat in the car in case you had any questions about filling out your application. But what got you to that point?
I think what really got me there was whenever I was a kid, me and Papa used to go around and we would do work on people's houses as far as electrical work and stuff. And then in high school, we had this class that was intro to electrician, whatever. I didn't do that class, but I thought it was so cool, and so I just started asking teachers and stuff about it. And then that's when I found out about Magaha. So then I was like, you know what, I'm going to try that. I want to make a career out of this. And so then that's when I, that's when we applied at Magaha. And then I started working. But I think it's a good career. I really do enjoy it a lot. And Josh has been telling me about how he wants to do it now too.
Yeah, he's in his high school program that he says he really likes.
He wants to be like his big brother.
But this podcast isn't about him.
Big bro.
But this isn't about him. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so Caleb did that in, what was that, 2020? It was 2020.
It was literally it was like a month or two after I graduated, because I graduated early because I turned 18 the first semester of my sophomore year, or my senior year, and I told my guidance counselor, I was like, listen, I've heard this thing about how you can graduate early. I said, please, tell me, what do I have to do to graduate early? And she said, okay, you need a English credit, a math credit, and a science credit, and then another PE credit. So I said, okay. I said, stack me up. So that was a hard year because I had to do math, I had to do algebra 2, English 4, social studies. Or no, it was people history, or it was some stupid class. I only went because the teacher was hot. And then it was PE. I think I had PE, and that was a hard year. But I just knew that, I don't know. I just knew I wanted to get out of there so that I could start working, because I just wanted to go ahead and get my life started. You know what I mean? And it was a really good idea. I'm really glad that was one thing I'm very glad that I did, was not stick around in high school and stuff. Because I still got friends that they're still struggling because they decided to kind of screw around when they got out of high school. And I was very set on what I wanted to do with my life and where I wanted it to go, and I feel like I did very good.
Yeah, I remember. I forgot that you graduated early, but I was just sitting here doing the math, and I figured we moved to Kentucky in May of
2020.
2020. And so Caleb, you were already out and working because you had your apartment before we left. So,
Yeah, it was literally like, I mean, I turned 18 a week later. I graduated high school. And then a month after that, I got a job in Magaha. I worked at Magaha. I was living in the house for like 3 months. And then after that is when I got my apartment. And then y'all moved to Kentucky.
yeah.
So that's what I was circling back around to the day you were born. That's what I meant by when you came out of the world yelling and screaming and you took off from there. I mean, I knew even through all the stuff that we had to go through growing up and the fights and the, whatever that most normal families go through, I knew that you were going to be something big one day because you were just that kind of person. And I see that a little bit in Joshua too, is he's not quite as motivated as you were at 17, but hopefully he'll get there. But you were always just kind of motivated to set your mind to something and then you wanted to do it. So then that leads us to your beautiful wife, and y'all got married this year, and now you have a house and you have Delani. And so tell us about how you and Delani, of course, y'all met when you were like 6, and I know this was going to be a thing when Delani knew how you were growing up, and she still fell in love with you. So talk to us about how kind of when you came around to knowing that Delani was the one that you wanted to spend the rest of your life with.
Well, I do remember, like, I do remember the exact moment where I realized that I really did like Delani. It was when I was hanging out with Isaac and Bethany. She was in Oak Ridge because she had come from Kentucky. I remember she was living with y'all in Kentucky for a little bit, and she had come to Knoxville to hang out with Delani. And I do remember when Bethany called me and she said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "Me and Isaac," I was like, "we're hanging out at my apartment. We're just playing video games. Why?" And then she said, "Well, this hotel has a pool, and I really would like for you guys to come hang out with me and Delani." So I said, "Okay, that's cool." So me and Isaac, we got in my car, we got bathing suits, and we went, and we got to the hotel. I remember I got to the hotel and I saw Delaney there, and she just looked absolutely stunning. And I was like, I just remember thinking, I was like, "Is this Delaney? Like, is this who I grew up with?" Like, I don't. And it was the Delaney I grew up with. And so I was, we were talking and we were hanging out and stuff. And then after that night, I decided that I was going to ask her out on a date. So we went to Main Event, and her father, I know y'all know who he is, but for people that don't know, his name is Aaron Fell, and he is a first sergeant. So I got a call from Aaron Fell, the first sergeant, and he was asking me, he said, "Do you know who the hell I am?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I know who you are." And he was really nice to me. He was really good. He offered me, he said that he can give me some money if I needed it. And he said, I remember the only thing he told me was that he just wanted me to take care of his daughter. So, and I feel like I've done a pretty good job since then. But we went on a date, and we were just bowling, and we were just having drinks and stuff, and we were just hanging out. And then it just went on from there. And I remember I went back to Kentucky because I had to get a few things sorted out with my life. I quit my job at Magaha, and I came back to Kentucky just so I can figure out what I wanted to go from there. And then she came and visited me a lot. She came there. She was there a lot with me, and she was visiting. And then we went. And then I remember I moved with her, moved back in with her. Or not back in with her. I moved in with her, and I started working at Massey, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, because that was another one of the things that when you set your mind to it, you're going to make it happen. Because I think you had just moved up here, or the plans were in process for you to move up here before that night that y'all decided to start dating. And you were at a job where you had to work some really crappy shifts, and you had to work 6 days a week. So you couldn't, I feel like you felt trapped because you couldn't go to see her in Tennessee as much as you wanted to. And so after a while, you were just like, this is not what I want. This is what I want. And so you change things around to be able to go and do what you wanted to do, which was move back to be closer to her and then, grow that relationship. So, and now y'all are married in almost a year, right? April 24th.
Yeah. April. Yeah. That's when.
So I know we can't hear Delani right now because you have your AirPods in, but I would love to hear Delani's side of that, how she went from, because you used to aggravate the crap out of Delani and Bethany when we would all get together and hang out. And then to get to the point where you asked her out and she was like, yeah, I'll go out with you.
I can probably tell you if I can.
Yeah, I can hear you.
That's how it happened. Caleb, Bethany called Caleb and was like, I think I'm going to invite Caleb. And I was like, sure, because even when we were younger, I always liked hanging out with Caleb and Joshua when I'd come over all the time. It was always fun to get to play, basketball and board games and all that. I loved it. So I was like, yeah, sure, do that and see if he'll come over. So he came to the hotel and hung out. And then we started talking more after the hotel. And I was like, wait, I think we might, start dating. And it was fun because I always liked to hang out with him. And I remember when it turned into, wait, I think I'm in love with him. And it was when he came to visit Cody's house while I was living there. And we just hung out and talked. And I was like, wait, and just how much he cared about my family already and cared about me. I was like, wait, this is love. Like I'm in love with him. So I always remember that after he left, I was like, this is different. And so, yeah.
Yeah, you were like, wait, I think I'm in love with you. Don't go.
It's kind of interesting that y'all's story ended up that way because I know y'all have heard us say this before, and I'm going to wrap it up with this because we're almost out of time. But your dad told me when we were in 6th grade that he was going to marry me one day, and I was like, absolutely not. Like he was the funny guy and he was the friend. He stayed in, as Joshua calls it, the friend zone. He was in the friend zone for many, many years. And then there was just something about, we didn't see each other for a while, kind of like you guys. We drifted apart for a while. And then we ended up being at the same event in college. And it was the same thing. I was just looking at him like, is this the same Bo Cumberland I grew up with? And, of course, he said that he still always liked me. And he asked me out one time and I was like, yeah. And then there was the one day, kind of like Delani said, I just looked at him and I thought, I think this is what real love is. And so, as you say, the rest is history.
We just have to wear him down, right, Caleb?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for calling so you can be part of it because it wasn't going to be the same if we had to try to do it without you. And we are going to get to see you guys in a few days for your birthday, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I'll be 23. Who cares about 23, right?
Well, I mean, every birthday's important. It's another year around the sun.
Hey, I'm 50. I'll be 50 this year. You'll be 23, and you still got to pick where we go eat.
Hey, that's part of it.
I don't think your dad thought that part through when he let me have you on his birthday. He was like, yeah, that'll be cool. And I don't think he's had a birthday of his own since you were born.
All right. Well,
So
we
you'll
love
like
you.
where we're going.
Do what?
I said he'll like where we're going.
I've already looked at the menu. It looks really good.
Yeah, he will.
So is there anything else you want to say or Delaney wants to say before we go?
No, I feel pretty good about the conversation. I feel like it went really well, and I think I got everything that I wanted to say. Good stories, yes. Good
stories.
Kept all the bad stories out.
Yeah.
Yeah, my other favorite story of Caleb's is the Taco Bell story, but I don't think
we're not telling that one on the podcast.
On this podcast.
Oh dang! I want to hear about that one. I don't remember the Taco Bell story.
We'll stop the recording and then we'll call you back.
Okay.
All right, babe. I love you. Bye, Delaney.
All right. Love you guys.
Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.
That was our conversation with Caleb, and it's kind of cool to sit back and reminisce about the old days that I used to swear. Your mom tells me all the time, like, I used to swear if I could just get past all this and just get them out of the house, I would be so much like, I can't wait for that day. And now there's not amount of money I wouldn't pay to go back to those days.
Yeah. But I think about that a lot because especially with our Christmas being different this year, like, for example, all of the kids already have what they're getting for Christmas. So like on Christmas morning, I literally have nothing for them to open, but they've gotten bigger and they've gotten their houses. So they've wanted things for their houses. And that's kind of what we've gotten for Christmas. But I also sometimes I'll be honest, I get a little lonely sometimes because I went from being in the midst of all the chaos of trying to get them to school and trying to make sure they were dressed and lunches packed for the ones that wanted to take lunch and blah, blah, blah. That when I find myself alone more than usual, it just is it's lonely. But I also sit back and look at what amazing adults the older two have already become and that Joshua is turning into. So it's just it's kind of like, not that it's a finish line because, they're still growing and we're still growing all the things, but it's like I never imagined when they were elementary, junior high, high school. I was in survival mode. Like I just was like, I got to keep these kids alive. I got to keep them, from getting bit by black widows, and I got to keep them from getting hit by a car because they decided to walk to school. And so now you look back and it's like, not only did I keep them alive, but they're turning into amazing adults. They own their own home. They both have careers, not just jobs, but they have careers. They picked what I think are the perfect spouses for them. And so it's just kind of exciting. That's just a different part of life, I think, for me that I think is exciting.
Yeah. It was good to reminisce and kind of honor them on their birthday weeks, but this has been kind of a long one, so I guess we're going to call it here.
Y'all have a good week and a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Love you, babe.
Love you.
That's it for today's episode of Loving Our 25 to Life. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found something to take with you on your own journey.
Remember, love is an adventure. Sometimes it's wild, sometimes it's calm, but it's always worth it.
Yes!
If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who might need a little inspiration.
And don't forget to follow along for more episodes and vlogs documenting our travels, life lessons, and hopefully plenty of laughs.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, keep loving life because it is the greatest adventure of all. Bye for now.
Bye.